You're watching MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23, a free educational service provided by Circle City Broadcasting of Indianapolis. Here's what's coming up this hour. Get more information, special announcements, and weekly program schedules online at wishtv.com. And be sure to follow us on Facebook. Here's what's coming up next.
Hi friends, it's your girl Miss E. I am back again for our last week of virtual learning. So friends, you started with me and you're gonna end with me too. How awesome is that? All right, so we are on week 4, day 1. So friends, take a few seconds, go get your packet, a pencil, and an extra piece of paper just in case we need it, and meet me back here. All right. Awesome. So friends, you have everything you need. So let's take a look at our day 1. So today, friends, we are using 2 different crayons to color each train. I have our first example here on the board. So let's look at it. They counted 7. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the object of this is to complete it to 10. So we're counting to 10. So we used our crayon and we colored in 7 blocks. So once we have colored in our 7, we're going to use our fingers. We colored in our 7. Here's our 7th. And then we're going to count how many blank blocks we now have. And we have 1, 2, 3 in order to get to 10. So we have our 3. So 7 plus 3 equals 10. All right, so friends, let's do one together. So on your next one, let's see, how many can we color? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I'm gonna stop there. And I have 4. So now that I've colored 4, I'm gonna put that number here. So I have 4. Now friends, how many more do I need to color in order to get to 10? If you said 6, give me a thumbs up. Awesome. So friends, I am going to speckle this one because I don't have my other marker. How about that? So we are going to speckle these other ones. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 that are colored in. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are speckled. So let's put our 6 here. And so friends, let's count it out. We have 4 plus 6 equals 10. Awesome job. So friends, on the next 4 that you have on your paper, you can choose whichever number that you want to start with that first crayon that you had. And then you're going to color the rest of them with the other color crayon that you have. And then, friends, don't forget to write your number sentence at the end, just like we did here. Awesome job. So now, friends, it says that we have to describe shapes. And so I'm going to hold my paper up here. It says that you have to describe the different shapes. But first, friends, we have to make sure that we know what each shape is. So we have a square, a rectangle, a circle, a oval, a cube, a sphere, a cylinder, a triangle, a pentagon, hexagon, octagon, a cone, a rectangle, and a prism. So now that we know all of our shapes, we can then figure out what we need to put in each one of these here spaces. I am going to do A with you, and then I'm going to drop down and I'm going to do C with you as well. So let's look at it. It says the cube is, here's our cube, blank. The sphere, which is here, and blank the cone. The cone is here. And so, friends, the words that we use in these blanks are above, below, beside, in front of, behind, and next to. So if we're looking at the cube is what to the sphere? Is it above, below, beside, in front of, behind, or next to? Right, so we can say the cube is next to the sphere and blank the cone. So here's the cone, there's our cube. The cube is what? Is it above, below, beside, in front of, behind, or next to? Above. Good job, friends, you got it. All right, so friends, let's drop down to our C. This one, we're gonna pretty much do the same exact thing using those same words, above, below, beside, in front of, behind, and next to. So here, the blank is next to the blank and above the blank. So now you get to put in the different shapes. Which one could I use? Let's use the prism. So the prism, well, no, because we have to have above the two. Let's start with the above the. So something is above the octagon. So we're going to put octagon there. And so then if we're talking about something that's above the octagon, we have an oval there. So the oval is next to the circle and above the octagon. Awesome job, friends. You guys are rocking it. So now moving on, we're going to now count it's a box with shoes in it. What else do you see? What else can you count? I just gave you a box, one box, and a pair of shoes, which means two. So we have one box and two shoes. What else do you see in this picture? What else can you count and label? Friends, I believe that you all can do that on your own. So today, friends, we got better at counting to 10 using our blocks and 2-color crayons. We also got better at shapes and learning what is left to right, next to, above, below. And then, friends, we also looked at a picture and was able to count different objects within that picture and label it. So friends, this has been a wonderful time with you, and thank you so much for coming and spending your time with me this morning. And so friends, this is Miss E signing out.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
All right, hey friends, welcome back. It's your girl, Miss E. We're doing kindergarten math. We are on week 4, day 2. All right, so friends, let's hop right into our lesson. On the very first part of our lesson, we are adding or we are subtracting. And so, friends, I have a few problems here on the board. And then we will also do one of our subtraction problems as well. So, friends, let's start at our 4 plus 1. If you have your packet, please grab it with a pencil. And then, friends, if you have something that you can count with, I know that at the beginning of our weeks, we used all kind of things. Miss E had markers, we had pennies, we had quarters, we had cars, we had counting blocks, we had beans. So whatever you can use, friends, go ahead and grab it. And then let's take a look at our first problem. You can either use your pennies or you can draw pictures, but Miss E is going to use her balls here. So the first one is we have 4 plus 1. So I'm going to put 4 dots up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I am going to add 1 to it. So friends, take a second, count that up. What is the number that you get? 4 plus 1? Awesome job. I love it. 5. Friends, say, I got this. Awesome. I am just going to change this one. This one isn't on your paper. I'm just going to change this to a minus sign. Remember, friends, that when we use our minus sign, we are going to take things away, not add them together to make them bigger. We're going to make them smaller. So we have 2 minus 2. So I have my 2 up here. And then I'm going to take 2 away. So now how many am I left with? 2 minus 2 equals? Awesome job. 0. Friends, you are wonderful. You guys are on it today. Now, friends, we're going to look at some shapes again. Previously, we looked at different shapes. We went up, we went down, we went left, we went right. Today, we have some more shapes. And on A, we are going to use our diagram to fill in the blanks. So we have blank has more sides than blank. So here, I'm going to show you my paper. Blank has more sides than blank. So let's look and see which one of our shapes has the most. We have a rhombus. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. We have a square. It has 4 sides. We have a rectangle. It has 4 sides. Our circle doesn't have any sides. Our triangle has 3 sides. And our oval has 0 sides. So, friends, which one of our shapes could we put here? Write that down. We could choose from our triangle, circle, or oval. No, Miss E, that's backwards. Ugh, silly Miss E. No, blank has more sides. So we have to look at our friends that have 4 sides. Our rhombus, square, or our rectangle can go there. And then we can choose from one of those 3, the circle, oval, and triangle to go there because they all 3 have less sides than these other 3. So friends, I would like for you to do B and C on your own. B says blank has the same number of sides as blank. C says blank has more vertices than blank. What are vertices? I'm only in kindergarten. I don't know what a vertices is. I think I remember that vertices are corners. So the corners. So friends, we can count these vertices or corners and determine which one of our shapes has the most corners or vertices. So our rhombus has 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, that's just like how many sides it has. So friends, you can fill out which one has more vertices. Then dropping down, friends, we're going to play a game. Let me put it up on my board just so that you can see what the game is going to look like. We kind of played a similar game on week 1 when we had 10 pennies and we each took a penny or 2 pennies a piece until we got to 0 pennies, and the person who had 0 pennies, who took the last penny, actually won the game. So this one is kind of similar. So on your paper, I would like for you to draw a tens frame. All right, so we have our tens frame, which has 10 blocks in there. And then we're gonna either take our coins or objects that we have. I'm gonna use my dots. And we are going to fill in the tens frame. Friends, give me a second. I'm missing some dots. All right, so friends, we have our 10 frame filled. And so with this game, you will need a partner. With this game, you are going to take 1, 2, or 3 of your objects off of the tens frame. Whoever fills up the tens frame. Oh, I'm sorry, I did that completely wrong, friends. We are going to fill the tens frame up, me and my partner, not take them away. So we're filling today. So if I'm playing first, I'm going to put 2. And then my partner's gonna come on, and they may put in 3. And then whoever fills in the last 10 frame, they win. So friends, get a partner, either your parent, a sibling, or a friend, and friends, try and fill up your 10 frame. And whoever fills in the last spot, you are the winner. All right, so friends, today we got better at adding, which is making things bigger, and subtracting, which is making things smaller. And then we went and we looked at different shapes. We looked at their sides, we looked at their vertices, which is their corners, and then we compared those different shapes. And then lastly, we looked at a tens frame. We played a game. We were able to put our dots or our coins or whatever it is that you have inside of a tens frame, and whoever put in the last one, they won our game. So friends, thank you so much for coming and spending this time with me again. It is greatly appreciated. And friends, you are rocking this out. So thank you, and this is Miss E signing out.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
All right. Welcome, friends. It's your girl, Miss E, and today we are looking at week 4, day 3 for our kindergarten math lesson. So friends, please take a minute and go get your packet, a pencil, and an extra piece of paper just in case we need it, and maybe some coins or some beans or some type of object where we can actually count. Friends, all we need is about 5 objects this time because we're only going to be adding and subtracting within 5. So take a few minutes, go get those items, and come back and meet me right back here. All right, so friends, welcome back. So again, we will be adding and subtracting. Remember that when we add, we're gonna make things bigger. And when we subtract, we're gonna make those things smaller. So I have my first problem on the board. And this method that I'm gonna use this time, friends, is I'm gonna draw pictures. So you can draw pictures with me as well. Here we go. We have 5 plus 0. Does anyone even know what 5 plus 0 is before I even do it? You got it? All right, let's see if when I finish, we have the same answer. Okay, here we go. We have 5. So friends, I am going to draw 5 hearts. 1, count with me, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have my 5 hearts. And then I'm going to add 0. How do I add 0? I don't add anything. Okay, so 5 plus 0 equals, let's count it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. If you said that 5 plus 0 was 5 before I started, you got it. So friends, give yourself a pat on the back. Awesome. So now we have 5 minus 2. I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. This time, when I'm taking away, I'm going to make an X over my picture. So I'm going to start with my 5, and I'm going to draw 5 squares. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And remember, when we are using our minus sign, we are going to take away. So I am going to take away how many? 2. Awesome. Let me change my marker for that. So I am going to cross out 2. 1, 2. So now, friends, how many do I have that do not have an X in it? 3. So 5 minus 2 equals 3. Awesome job, friends. You got it. Sweet. All right, so moving on. Which one doesn't belong? So friends, we have to choose one item in this picture that we don't think belongs with the rest. And then you have to explain why. Can you pick one? So I'm looking at it, and the very first one that I see that don't belong is the one that's empty. This one right here. This canoe or kayak doesn't have any people in it. So that's the one I'm gonna choose. Are you gonna choose that one? Maybe. Or maybe you could choose a different one and tell us why you chose that one. Why does that particular picture do not belong with the other 3? Great. Now, friends, let's move down to our pattern. We did one of these before. So we have cylinders, or what Miss E kind of made. They kind of look like salt shakers. So we have Miss E's salt shakers. And in our first picture, I'm going to put a square around these. I know it's not on your paper, but each one of these is different. We are making a pattern. So in our first one, let's see, we have 1, 2. We have 1, 2, 3. Let's go to our second one. We have 1, 2, 3. In our bottom row, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Can anyone see what our pattern is thus far? We added 1 to each row. Yes, friends, you are amazing. All right, so let's look at our next one. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. we're still in it, right? We had 2, we had 3, now we have 4. Let's do our next line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we had 3, 4, 5. Awesome. So friends, in our next one, our next pattern, because this is the one that we have to create all by ourselves. How many should we have on our first line? If we had 2, 3, 4, what comes after 4? 5. Awesome, friends. So we're gonna make 5 salt shakers. 2, 3, 4, 5. Awesome. So how many do we need in our bottom row? We had 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, friends, count with me. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, friends, I will allow you to label that yourself. So then our pattern looks complete. We had 2, 3, 4, and 5. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Good job, friends. So today we got better at adding, which is making things bigger, and subtracting, which is making things smaller, all within the number 5. And then we looked at some pictures to see which one of these pictures do not belong with the rest of them. And then finally, we did a pattern. We took our 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 and our 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. Friends, thank you so much again for staying with me and learning a little bit more math. Friends, you guys are rock stars. Thank you so much, and I'll check you all later.
Hi, I'm Alicia Johnson. Unfortunately, many families don't have access to the educational resources available online, and the digital divide has become more apparent as thousands of students are now learning from home. Thanks to our partnership with Circle City Broadcasting, IPS students and families have access to daily educational instruction. Join IPS teachers weekdays from 8 to 10 a.m. on MyINDY-TV. For the schedule, visit wishtv.com/IPS.
Look around. Listen. We're moving to a new beat. A colorful symphony, each note made more beautiful by the next. We are driven by talent in the classroom, in each school, that recognizes the potential in every student and knows the opportunity to achieve is not an option, it's expected. We are not alone. We stand among giants, eager to help, eager to give back and build bonds to last generations. We are part of a city fueled by grit, strength, and determination. Racing toward a future full of potential, where hard work really does pay off. When one succeeds, we all succeed. We're innovative, we're industrious, we're imaginative. We are your Indianapolis Public Schools, and we're stronger together.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
Good morning, IPS scholars. This is Miss Gordon back with our math instruction for first grade. And sadly but surely, we are on our last week of home learning. And so we are in our first grade math packets, and we are going to be on week 4. So let's work really hard and enjoy our last week together. The first problem that you'll notice on your packet, and number 1 in week 4, is you'll see some number lines. And I just want you to think, what do we already know about number lines? What do I notice about these numbers on the number line? I notice that it starts with 60, and I notice that it ends with 84. I also notice that they have parts of the number line that are not present. So they are wanting us to put in the missing numbers. So after you've looked through, how do you think that you can best solve the missing numbers on the top number line? I noticed that I have 60 and then it goes to 62. So I noticed that it doesn't say 61. So maybe it's skip counting by 2s. Something that's helpful is that you could do is go ahead and identify where there is another number on the number line and just put a tick. So this would count for 1. So I have 60, 61, 62, and then I put a tick. So after you put your tick, then you notice you can go ahead and sequence the numbers 60, 61, 62, 63, 65, 66. And so I want you to practice that by just going ahead and sequencing your numbers, but you may still add a different smaller tick to represent the one that's missing, the missing number. So go ahead and try to identify your top, and then I will move on to the next number line. All right, so looking at the next number line, you'll see that we are still working with a pattern of numbers, and we have to fill in our missing numbers in the sequence. So what do we notice again? This one starts at 71. And then we notice that it goes to 73. Just like we did here, what is the number that should go in between 71 and 72? I'm going to go ahead and put the ticks so I know it's 72. That comes in between these. So 72, 73, 74. What comes here? And they're skip counting the odd numbers by 2s as well. So go ahead and take a moment to put your ticks in sequence by counting out loud and fill in the first 2 missing numbers. Okay, so if Ms. Gordon does that, 72, 73, 74, 75, whoops. Okay, so the same thing. I just want you to keep sequencing them. Go ahead and put your one that's missing in between to help you make sure that you are skip counting in the correct order. Then, after you're done, good mathematicians are going to go back and just re-sequence the line. If I get to a number that's not the number I say, then I know I would have made a mistake. So 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, and then I want you to double check as you go to get to 95. Okay? Okay, good job. And let's move on to our next part of day 1. Okay, guys, so the next part of day 1, we see that we have a composite 2D shape. And you'll notice that that whole 2D shape is made of, that whole composite shape is made of different 2D shapes. But we can't tell which 2D shapes they are because they have placed them together and they are all the same shade. So I just wanted to show you one that's not all the same shade. And I just made this little rocket here. And I just want you to think, can you tell me one of the shapes that I used to build my rocket? Can you tell me what the top of my rocket shape is? Because this is the whole shape, but if I had to say the top of the rocket has one triangle, that's what I want that language to sound like. I see 2 squares in the middle of the rocket. Good. So this is one example. But then on yours that you'll do alone, I was thinking about it. Can you go ahead and trace over one shape that you definitely see? Because I definitely do see a square at the top. So I went ahead and traced a square at the top so I could see that this composite 2D shape has one square. Could it have more than one square? Perhaps. Can you go trace over some 2D shapes and then maybe tell a friend or your teacher what shapes you found? Try your very best, and great job. After you have identified the shape, I want you to go ahead and make a list of the shapes that you use. So you could say 1 square, 1 triangle, and I want you to use that math language to identify what the composite shapes are made of. Okay, good job, guys. All right, so the last part of day 1, we have another egg carton where they're just wanting us to practice different ways of identifying how many eggs are within this carton. So it says, how many do you see? What do you count? How did you count them? And remember how we were talking about counting. I see groups of 5. I see 2 groups of 10. I just want you to think I can skip count by How many eggs are in one row? I just want you to think about different ways that you could group the eggs together to see how many eggs are all together. How many eggs are missing from the carton? How many eggs can you fit all together in the carton? There's different ways that you could think about that, but I just want you to have a good math conversation about what you see and what you notice.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
All right, guys, so we're going to head on to the next day in our packet. So let's look at day 2. At the top of day 2, you'll notice that you see an image of, at the bottom of the page, you'll see day 2, and then you'll notice our image of penguins. And it's telling us that they want us to skip count. But I know that skip counting is definitely a harder skill in first grade. If we don't see groups of 5s and 10s, then we get a little bit hesitant to use our skip counting power. But I made this model, and I just want you to use this model to help you solve the penguins. So what do we notice about the penguins? I noticed that there's 2 adults and 1 child. So I made the 2 adults colored, and then I made the child a small box. And so I want to think about that. So if I know that in the first row there are how many penguins for one family? There are 3. So in your blank, I just want you to identify how many penguins there are in each row. So if there's 3 in one family, because again, this is my little babe. That's the little penguin. If there's 3 in each family, how can I use skip counting by 3s to solve the penguin sequence? With 5 families at the very end, how many groups of 3 do you have? You have 5 groups of 3. So go through and try to fill in, and then I will give you a double check of Miss Gordon's work after you take about 10 seconds to try on your own for the first 2 families. All right, so now let's double check with mine. On that next group, I saw that there are 2 families, so I know that there's 3, and then I got 6, so mine is 6. So I want you to use this, and you'll be able to see that scaffold to help you solve the rest of it, but really you're just going to fill in and really get that sequence 3, 6, 9, 12, or if you have to think about it, you could just individually count, but I want you to push yourself to identify the pattern. How many do they add each time? Okay, good job. Okay guys, so moving on to our next section of day 2, but this work is going to be more so on you, but I have helped you out by giving you some names of the shapes that you need to draw. So you'll notice that it says drawing and naming shapes by the sides. And you'll notice that there's A, B, C, D, and E. Each of those are telling you to draw a specific 2D shape that is flat. So let's think about this. If number A says 3 sides, what is the 3-side shape that you would quick draw on your paper? Take a moment to quick draw. 3 sides. Any 3 sides. What is the name of the shape that you might draw? A triangle. So then I want you to draw your 3-sided shape and then label it with a triangle, and then move on to B, C, D, and E and try your very best to utilize the shape names and the shapes that you draw. So since we did A together, I'm going to draw my 3-sided shape. 1, 2, 3. There it is. And then I'm going to go ahead and circle triangle because I used triangle. You don't have the word triangle on your paper, so this is where I would like you to try to write the word triangle. If you don't have time to write it, then just practice drawing the shapes. Okay, good job. Okay guys, so moving on to our next part of day 2. You're doing great. Let's look at this pyramid puzzle. So we've been working a lot with numbers 0 through 10 and then using them to make a puzzle. So the directions that I want you to think about are fill in the spots below with numbers 0 through 10. So that each number in the pyramid, so this is our pyramid, each number in the pyramid is the sum of the 2 below it. So right when I heard that, I immediately thought of a number bond, right? Because we have this as a number and then the 2 below it have to be the sum. So I think about it, the part-whole relationship. So we have to figure out how we can use number bonds to make parts to get the sum of the number above it. I'm going to help you a little bit, but I do want you to be able to think through this as well on your own. So if I look at the numbers 0 through 10, here's my numbers. I have to identify a number that I can break into 2 parts. So I just really want to start with our number 10. And so I want you to write number 10 at the top of your paper, please, in your top part of your pyramid. And then go ahead and also please write out 0 through 10 on your paper. That way we know which numbers we've used. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark out 10. Now I want us to think about what is the number, what are the 2 parts that give me 10? So draw your caret. We call that a caret in Miss Gordon's classroom. And what are the 2 parts that we can use to make 10? Let's look at 2 other numbers that are also greater. So I could use 7 and 3 because I'm trying to find 2 parts that make 10. I'm going to give you these next 2 parts, but then I want you to identify the numbers that go below it. So I think that I want to use 6 here and 4 because I know that 6 and 4 can be broken up and they can also share a number. What is the number that 6 and 4 share? 6 and 4 can share the number 1. So if I give you that and we put 1 right here, what are the other parts that you need to get 10 at the top with 1? So now that you've probably have a few ideas of how to break apart 6 and 4, I do want you to know that I didn't mean to cross these numbers out because we actually can use them more than once. And I identified where I had to use the number 4 again. I have to use the number 4 again when I break apart these next 2 parts. So with number 1, or with the number 1, what is my part that I need to make 6, 1, and 5? So I do want you to write 5 right here. And then I know that these caret to give me my 6, but you're also going to share the 1 to caret with your 4. So what is the other part that you need to caret with the 4? 1 plus 3. Now that you have most of your pyramid filled out, now it's your turn to identify the 4 numbers on the bottom that are going to give you the sum of the row above it. So 5 and 1 is 6 plus 3, this is 9. Okay, so I know that that did look a little bit tricky, but I wanted you to just acknowledge that we are actually sharing this 1. So I know that 5 and 1 makes 6, 1 and 3 makes 4. So this is still giving me 10. What I need to remember is that I'm sharing this 1. So then when you go find your 2 parts to fill out your last row of your pyramid, think about how you're going to break apart 5 and how you're going to find 3 using any of these numbers again. So you might use 3 and 2. You can choose the numbers, but those are the last row I want you to do on your own and then talk to your teacher about what you found. Okay, great job.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
All right, first graders, let's go ahead and skip down to the visual patterns. And on your paper, you're going to notice that you have circles that are different shades. So I have drawn an example, but this is not what yours looks like because I want to do one with you, and then I want you to think through the one that's on your home packet on your own. So when I think about visual patterns, I need to identify how much is in each set, or how many I have in each set. So this is my first set, 2 purple, 2 orange. How many are in that set? Well, 2 plus 2 is 4, so I'm going to label it 4. And then I noticed that the pattern is what? What am I identifying the pattern as? So here's 4, there's my 4 plus 2, so I know here's another doubles fact, 3 and 3, there's 6. And so what are you noticing about your circles on your paper? Do you notice that there's facts that you know that go with it? Are there doubles facts that are used? Because then I see 2, 3, 4, so then I have 4 plus 4, and I get 8. And then they're wanting you to draw your last stage. So if I know that my last one was 8, what is the next doubles fact that comes after that? 5 plus 5. So my visual pattern I would draw are 5 purples and 5 oranges. But yours is a little bit different. I want you to first identify how many are in each stage, and then I want you to try your best to think about, are these doubles facts that are going with it? Yellows plus greens. And then try your best to draw that 4th stage on the bottom, just where you can find space. Okay, so remember what we did together? We identified each set, and then I know that in the end I have to draw my 4th set, but I want you to think through it and what is the pattern that you notice.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
All right, first grade scholars, I'm super proud of you. We are going to do day 4, 2 parts of day 4, and then you are on your own for the rest of your home learning packet and hopefully on to a great summer vacation. So let's look at the top of day 4. What are you noticing? We see feet and hands, right? So it also says that we need to practice adding and subtracting by 5s. And so I just drew a little quick set of just what I think about when I'm adding and subtracting by 5. First, I thought about all the different ways I could see 5. I can see it in a 5s group, I can use 5 tallies, I can use the dice model, or I can just use a set of dots that are grouped with 3s, or grouped by a group of 3 and 2, which is also giving me 5. I want you to look at your hands and your feet. What do we know about our hands and our feet? We can use these to help us count, right? I have 5 plus 5, I have 5 plus 5, so how many fingers and toes do I have all together in my body? 20. And so they are going to tell you about a specific foot or hand that you need to use to help skip count. So if we look at the first one, it says 5 feet. The way I want you to practice solving that is just literally thinking through that. If I have 5 feet, you can just draw sets of 5 feet. They are only giving you a pretty small box to work with those. So if I had to do that, I might just draw groups of 5 and see if I can skip count that way. Now that's pretty abstract, right? If I have groups of 5 feet, writing 5 times doesn't necessarily help us the best. But if you can't do it by skip counting 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, then I want you to just go ahead and use one of these ways to practice drawing it out. So if you had to do skip counting, or if you just need to draw up 5 people and think about just one of their feet, that might help you as well. So here's my 5 stick people. And then it said what? It said 5 feet. So then maybe use a different color or just a darker shade and you have 1 foot, 2 foot, 3, 4, 5. How many toes do we have all together? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So your first answer should be 25 toes. So use drawings and other ways of thinking to think through that. On some of the problems, they're giving you an amount of toes, and then you have to think about how many hands or feet they would go to. So I just want to look at one of those, and then you'll have to do it on your own. Okay, so let's look at one of the ones on the bottom, and it says that we have 9 hands. Who has the hands? So if I have 9 hands, so I'm just going to go ahead and draw this. It says 9 hands, and then it shows you a hand. But obviously that's going to take a long while to draw 9 hands. So I might just do a quick hand like that. And then if I'm drawing 9 of them, I might just draw 9 people to just help me visualize how many fingers I have all together on the 9 hands. So go ahead and finish that by drawing your 9 small people. And then just go, and like I said, take a different color or use a darker shade and then just circle 9 of the hands. And then what am I going to skip count by? By 5s. If you have 9 people in your house right now, ask them to stand there with 5s. Practice your skip counting by 5s. It's a very important skill. Okay, great job. All right, guys, let's look at the domino images that we see at the bottom of day 4. It says dots and patterns. We definitely know that these are dominoes. I want us to think back to that part-part-whole relationship that we discussed a few problems ago. I noticed that when I have a domino, I do have part-part to give me a whole. You'll notice that some of these dominoes, they do have the 2 parts filled out and they have the whole given to you. Your job is to identify those 2 parts that go inside your number expression. It is a vertical number expression. So let's think. I have 3 and 4, which tells me that 3 plus 4 can give me a whole of 7. Your whole top row is where you are identifying the 2 parts and you're writing those in. So top row, you got it. I know it. Bottom row, or let's go to the middle row. What do you notice about the middle row? I noticed that they gave me a 2, but then I'm like, what? That says 0. And then they have 4 dots in our second part of the domino, but there's no number written. And what did they give us? They gave us the whole. So this is where we have a missing part. What do we have? We have a missing part. So we have to identify what the missing part is. What part do you think is missing? So they give us 4. This is 0. The part that is missing is 4 in this number sentence. But what is the part that's missing in the dominoes? Say it out loud. 2. You should have said 2. So then you're just going to draw 2 dots in the top to find that missing part that's in the domino and the missing part that's in the number expression. And you will see that 2 plus 4 gives you 6. I have one more example on the missing add-in part where they give you 5. And yeah, they definitely labeled it with a 5. But then you see that this is still blank and that the second number in the expression is still blank. So what do we know about the fact family? 5, blank, and 8. What part is going to give us 8 with 5? We can count on. I can use my fact family to solve. So I have 5. Maybe I do a 6, 7, 8. Because I know that 5 plus 3 is in fact 8. So I want you to go ahead and finish your missing parts in your middle row. The last row you're definitely doing on your own as well. You've worked all of first grade to identify part-part-whole relationships. Now they're giving you the sum, and you can make whatever numbers, or you can use whatever numbers you would like to make the sum. The first sum is 10. What are 2 friends of 10 that you know that you can fill in on those dominoes? Can you find any groups up here, any numbers up here that you can take to build 10? I want you to think through it. What can you use to make 10? And I want you to work through on that first domino. 5 plus 5, 6 plus 4, 7 plus 3. What can you use to make 10? Same thing to make 9. You need 2 parts to make 9. You need 2 parts to make 5. So really thinking back to those fact families that we have really been working hard on to identify and strengthen our number sense. And I'm super proud of you, and I'll miss you all summer. And thank you so much for all your hard work, and I will check you next school year.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Paris Campbell here, wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. And today we're going to be reading Good Night Football. It's the end of the week. It's the best of all sights. Beneath the night sky lies a field of bright lights. And the bleachers are full for a very good reason. The big game is tonight. It's football season. The big band plays and the cheerleaders shout, and everyone cheers as the team runs out. The fans are excited. It's time for some fun. Then a whistle, the kickoff, the game has begun. On 3rd and 1, the ball is snapped, but the defense breaks through and the quarterback is sacked. He shakes it off and gets up. The crowd yells, hooray. Then the team huddles up and discusses a play. The quarterback drops back and lets the ball go. It sails through the air. Oh, wow, what a throw. A receiver breaks loose and stands all alone. Reaches up, grabs the ball. He's in the end zone. The teams trade possessions. Up and down rolls to score. Then a long run wins the game. Hear the crowd roar. What a game. What a night. Good night, players. You fought a good fight. Good night, coaches, as they shake hands. Good night, cheerleaders. Good night, band. Good night, bleachers. Good night, fans. Good night, field and concession stands. Good night, mascot. We'll come back soon. Good night, goalpost. Good night, moon. Good night, helmet, and my favorite teams. Good night, football. Good night, and sweet dreams. The end. Once again, this is Paris Campbell with the Indianapolis Colts. Hope you guys are safe, staying healthy. Go Colts.
What's going on?
I don't know.
Okay, try it now.
Yeah, that's IPS.
Look around. Listen. We're moving to a new beat. A colorful symphony, each note made more beautiful by the next. We are driven by talent in the classroom, in each school, that recognizes the potential in every student and knows the opportunity to achieve is not an option, it's expected. We are not alone. We stand among giants, eager to help, eager to give back and build bonds to last generations. We are part of a city fueled by grit, strength, and determination. Racing toward a future full of potential, where hard work really does pay off. When one succeeds, we all succeed. We're innovative. We're industrious. We're imaginative. We are your Indianapolis Public Schools, and we're stronger together.
Hi, I'm Alicia Johnson. We all know the importance of keeping students engaged in learning during this unprecedented time. In addition to receiving IPS home learning packets, it's crucial for students to see and hear from the teachers they know and love. Through our partnership with Circle City Broadcasting, IPS teachers in grades K through 8 cover everything from reading to math in weekly lessons on MyINDY-TV. Together, we are making education accessible for everyone. For the schedule, visit wishtv.com/IPS.
You're watching MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23, a free educational service provided by Circle City Broadcasting of Indianapolis. Here's what's coming up this hour. Get more information, special announcements, and weekly program schedules online at wishtv.com, and be sure to follow us on Facebook. Here's what's coming up next.
My name is Courtney Ryan, and I'm a second grade teacher at William Penn Elementary School. And today I'm going to be helping you all with week 4, lessons 1 through 5. So let's go ahead and get started. Our first activity for day 1 is sum to 1,000. The goal of this activity is to create 2 3-digit numbers that when added together are as close to 1,000 as possible. And so I recommend cutting out strips of paper with numbers on them, or using index cards or sticky notes to kind of play around with the numbers before you actually write them on your paper. So as I'm going through to create my 3-digit numbers, I want to think about place value and what number I should put in the hundreds place. Let's see, I know that if I put my smaller numbers in the hundreds place, I won't get close to 1,000 as I need to be. So I'll choose a larger number. Let's go ahead with 400. Let's make 415. And then on the other side, we'll do 326. So I'm gonna go ahead and start by adding my numbers in the ones place. So I have 5 plus 6, which gives me 11. I'm gonna add the numbers in my tens place. So 2 plus 1 give me 3. And then I'll add the numbers in my hundreds place. So 300 plus 400 equals 700. Messed up. And I want to make note that if I'm adding the numbers in the tens place, this 1 represents a 10 and the 2 represents a 20. So the answer that goes here is actually 30. Then I'm going to add those numbers together to solve. So 700 plus 30 plus 11 is 741. So I didn't get too close to 1,000. I'm sure you all can get really closer. So go ahead and try, move the numbers around and see how close to 1,000 you can get. So the next activity on day 1 is a counting activity. On your paper, they give you a picture of balloons. And so your job is to count them. I want you all to think about ways that you can count these objects. So will you count by ones? Will you skip count? Will you group the objects by color or by size? For instance, if you wanted to count the red balloons first, you could count the red balloons, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I think a good adding strategy would be to find groups of 10 or add 2 color groups that equal 10. You also can look at the picture a different way and count the strings to find how many objects are there. Go ahead and try that one out. The third activity for day 1 is a money problem activity. So the first part of the activity asks us to count a collection of coins and write them 2 ways. When you have a money amount less than $1, you can write that amount with a cent sign or a $sign. So let's go ahead and go through, count our collection of coins, and then write that in 2 different ways. So my first coin is a quarter, so I'm going to go ahead and label that the value of a quarter is 25 cents. I'm going to use skip counting to count my coins, and so I'm going to add a dime. 25 plus 10 equals 35 cents. I'm going to add another dime, which will bring me to 45 cents. Now I need to skip count by 5 because I'm at my nickels. So 45 plus an additional nickel is 50 cents. Another nickel would make 55 cents. And if I add 1 penny, I have 56 cents. So let's write that 2 ways. The first way is to write our amount with a cent sign. So we're going to write the amount and our cent sign afterwards. When we write in dollar amounts, we start with the $sign, and then we're going to make a 0 for our dollar amount. Since our amount is less than $1, we don't have any dollars, so we put 0. And then you add your 56 cents at the end. Okay. The second part of that activity asks you to list the name of the coins to write that amount two ways and to write it in a different way. So I've chosen a $50 for an example for you all. So I'm going to write the coin name at the top. And I'm going to write it two ways, just as we did above. So my cents looks like that. And my dollars, 50 cents. Okay. And then the last section, draw it a different way, just asks us to use different collections of coins to represent 50 cents or the $50. So I'm going to use 1 quarter, it's 25 cents, 2 dimes, which brings us to 45 cents, and then 1 nickel to equal 50 cents. That is the end of our lessons for day 1. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you all soon.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
Hello again. Welcome to day 2. Our first activity for day 2 is a pyramid puzzle. The goal of this puzzle is that each number has to be the sum of the two numbers below it. So our goal is to fill in the entire puzzle. I'm going to go ahead and do this one as an example for you. So I'm looking at 17, and I know that these two numbers, when added together, have to equal 17. In order for me to figure out what number added to 2 equals 17, I need to subtract. So I'm going to come up here and do 17 minus 2. I start in the ones place. 7 minus 2 is 5. 1 minus 0 is 1. So 15 is the number that goes in this first box. I can then come over and look at the 10, and I know that these two numbers have to equal 10. So what number plus 2 equals 10? Again, we can subtract to find the answer. So 10 minus 2, I'm going to do a little bit of regrouping. So I'm going to come over and borrow from my 10s. So 10 minus 2 is 8. So I know that 8 goes here. Now, I don't have enough information in these two boxes to complete this, so I'm going to go over to this side of the pyramid. Now, I can add together 17 and 10 to find the sum of this number. So 17 plus 10 equals 27. So I'm going to write that here. And now I have to figure out what number added to 27 equals 50. Again, I can subtract to find that answer. So 50 minus 27. Again, I'm going to have to regroup. So I'm going to borrow from the tens place. I'm left with 4 tens. Carry that 10 over to the ones place. 10 minus 7 is 3. And 4 minus 2 is 2. So I know that 23 goes here. Now I can come back and look at 10 and this unknown number. We have to figure out what number plus 10 equals 23. So we're going to subtract 23 minus 10. And this is easy subtraction, no regrouping necessary. So 3 minus 0 is 3. 2 minus 1 is 1. So 13 goes here. And then we can do the same thing for the last two, or the last one. We need to figure out what number added to 8 equals 13. So we're going to subtract to find that as well. 13 minus 8. I'm going to borrow from my tens place. So 13 minus 8 equals 5. Got it? That was pretty fun, guys. take a stab at it. It should be really fun. Now let's move on to our next activity of making change. So our directions say that they want you to make 47 cents using exactly 6 coins. So the first thing we need to know is the value of each coin. A quarter is worth 25 cents. A dime is worth 10 cents. A nickel is worth 5 cents. And a penny is worth 1 cent. So I want you all to just play with coins and figure out what collection of coins we need to use to make 47 cents. I'm gonna try it out. Let's see. I know I can use a quarter. Let's write my amount here. I know I can use a quarter, so I'll put that there. I'll use a dime. So I'm at 25, 35 cents. I'll use another dime. That'll bring me to 45 cents. And then I just need 2 pennies to get to 47 cents. Now I need to count my coins and see if I used exactly 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh man, I messed up. So I want you all to keep playing around with your coins until you can come up with the collection that equals 47 cents. Our next activity is a telling time activity. Before we look at that, I want to go over some features of a clock. So when we look at an analog clock, we're looking at the face of a clock, and we have to pay close attention to the hour hand, or the shorter hand, and the minute hand, or the longer hand. The hour hand tells us what hour it is, and that is represented by the numbers we see on the clock. The minute hand gets a little bit tricky. When we look at the minute hand, if it's on the 12, it's 00, or as we say, o'clock. From there, we have to count in 5-minute increments to represent each number. So if my minute hand is on the 3, it's actually 7:15. I also want to bring attention to these little notches in between each number. These are 1-minute increments. So if we are at 7:01, the next notch, or I'm sorry, 7:05, the next notch is 7:06, 7:07, 7:08, 7:09, and then we get to 2, which is 7:10. So with that knowledge, I want you all to go ahead and complete the first part of the telling time activity, which asks you to fill in the bubbles next to the correct time. For the second part of that lesson, you are asked to draw the hands on the clock to represent the time that is shown. So remember that when our hour hand is in between 2 numbers, let's say our hour hand was in between the 7 and the 8. It's not 8 o'clock yet. We're still in the 7 o'clock hour. That hand getting closer to the 8 just lets me know that it's closer to 8 o'clock. So don't let that trip you up as you're working on this. That's all for day 2. We love you and we miss you, and we hope to see you again soon.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
Hello families, welcome to day 3. We're gonna go ahead and jump right in and get started. On day 3, our first activity asks us to analyze data from a chart. And so I wanna imagine that I have a bakery and I need to list how many cakes have been baked through the course of a week. And so I have my days of the week here, and I have the number of cakes I've baked each day. So in your home learning packet, they're gonna ask you what day was the most amount of cakes baked and what day was the least amount of cakes baked, so you want to pay close attention to the numbers. Afterwards, they ask you to order those numbers from least to greatest. And so we're going to do that with the numbers I have here. So when thinking about ordering numbers from least to greatest, I need to think about place value. If I'm looking for the smallest number, I need to find the number that has the smallest hundredths number in the hundredths place. So I have 450 and 444. My other numbers are 500s, so I'm not going to use those yet. So I need to look at 450 and 444 to determine which one goes first. Since both of my numbers have a 4 in the hundredths place, I need to then go to the tens place to decide. I have a 5 in the tens place here and a 4 in the tens place here. 4 is smaller than 5, so that is the first number in my set. 450 goes second. Now I need to look at my 3 numbers that I have left. They all have 5 in the hundredths place, so that won't help me determine what goes next. So I need to look in the tens place. I have a 5, a 4, and a 4. Well, I'm ordering my numbers from least to greatest, so I'm looking for the lowest number in the tens place. So I know 555 isn't going to be used yet. I need to decide between 540 and 545. Because they have like numbers in the hundreds and tens place, we then go to the ones place to determine which one goes next. I have a 0 in the ones place here and a 5 in the ones place here. And so since 0 is smaller, this is my next number in my set. Then I can go ahead and bring 545 down, and my greatest number is 555. So go ahead and try that out in your home learning packet. The next activity in your home learning packet is an activity called Which One Doesn't Belong. So here you're giving a picture of 4 objects, and it's your job to determine which one doesn't belong. This is a problem I think we can have a lot of fun with because there's not one correct answer. For instance, I could look at this heart and say that that heart doesn't belong because it has polka dots, whereas the other hearts have stripes, okay? Another person can come up and say that this heart doesn't belong because it's smaller than the 3 other hearts. So I think as long as you can explain your reasoning with mathematics, there are a number of answers for these types of problems. So go ahead and have a lot of fun with this one. Our next activity is a visual pattern. And so on your home learning packet, you're giving a visual pattern in 3 stages. And so I've made an example for you up here, similar to the one in your home learning packet. So our job is to look at stage 1 and then compare it to stage 2 and see how this pattern is changing. I always tell my kiddos in 2nd grade that if we're looking at visual or number patterns, the first thing we need to think about is if that pattern is growing or shrinking. And since I have an additional object in stage 2, that lets me know that my pattern is growing. That helps me when I have to draw my own pattern on stage 4. So in stage 1, I have 1 green heart and 2 purple hearts below it. In stage 2, I've added another green heart. On stage 3, I've changed the pattern again by adding 2 additional purple hearts. So your job is to think about what will stage 4's pattern look like. So I'm going to go ahead and draw. So as you can see in stage 4, I have added an additional green heart. So our pattern is increasing by 1 green heart and then 2 purple hearts each time. So in your home learning packet, make sure you're paying close attention to whether your pattern is growing or shrinking and how it is changing. That is the end of the lessons for day 3. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you soon.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
Hello again. Welcome to day 2. Our first activity for day 2 is a pyramid puzzle. The goal of this puzzle is that each number has to be the sum of the two numbers below it. So our goal is to fill in the entire puzzle. I'm going to go ahead and do this one as an example for you. So I'm looking at 17 and I know that these two numbers, when added together, have to equal 17. In order for me to figure out what number added to 2 equals 17, I need to subtract. So I'm going to come up here and do 17 minus 2. I start in the ones place. 7 minus 2 is 5. 1 minus 0 is 1. So 15 is the number that goes in this first box. I can then come over and look at the 10, and I know that these two numbers have to equal 10. So what number plus 2 equals 10? Again, we can subtract to find the answer. So 10 minus 2, I'm going to do a little bit of regrouping. So I'm going to come over and borrow from my 10s. So 10 minus 2 is 8. So I know that 8 goes here. Now, I don't have enough information in these two boxes to complete this, so I'm going to go over to this side of the pyramid. Now, I can add together 17 and 10 to find the sum of this number. So 17 plus 10 equals 27. So I'm going to write that here. And now I have to figure out what number added to 27 equals 50. Again, I can subtract to find that answer. So 50 minus 27. Again, I'm going to have to regroup. So I'm going to borrow from the tens place. I'm left with 4 tens. Carry that 10 over to the ones place. 10 minus 7 is 3. And 4 minus 2 is 2. So I know that 23 goes here. Now I can come back and look at 10 and this unknown number. We have to figure out what number plus 10 equals 23. So we're going to subtract 23 minus 10. And this is easy subtraction, no regrouping necessary. So 3 minus 0 is 3. 2 minus 1 is 1. So 13 goes here. And then we can do the same thing for the last two, or the last one. We need to figure out what number added to 8 equals 13. So we're going to subtract to find that as well. 13 minus 8. I'm going to borrow from my tens place. So 13 minus 8 equals 5. Got it? That was pretty fun, guys. Take a stab at it. It should be really fun. Now let's move on to our next activity of making change. So our directions say that they want you to make 47 cents using exactly 6 coins. So the first thing we need to know is the value of each coin. A quarter is worth 25 cents. A dime is worth 10 cents. A nickel is worth 5 cents, and a penny is worth 1 cent. So I want you all to just play with coins and figure out what collection of coins we need to use to make 47 cents. I'm gonna try it out. Let's see. I know I can use a quarter. Let's write my amount here. I know I can use a quarter, so I'll put that there. I'll use a dime. So I'm at 25, 35 cents. I'll use another dime. That'll bring me to 45 cents. And then I just need 2 pennies to get to 47 cents. Now I need to count my coins and see if I used exactly 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh man, I messed up. So I want you all to keep playing around with your coins until you can come up with the collection that equals 47 cents. Our next activity is a telling time activity. Before we look at that, I want to go over some features of a clock. So when we look at an analog clock, we're looking at the face of a clock, and we have to pay close attention to the hour hand, or the shorter hand, and the minute hand, or the longer hand. The hour hand tells us what hour it is, and that is represented by the numbers we see on the clock. The minute hand gets a little bit tricky. When we look at the minute hand, if it's on the 12, it's 00, or as we say, o'clock. From there, we have to count in 5-minute increments to represent each number. So if my minute hand is on the 3, it's actually 7:15. I also want to bring attention to these little notches in between each number. These are 1-minute increments. So if we are at 7:01, the next notch, or I'm sorry, 7:05, the next notch is 7:06, 7:07, 7:08, 7:09, and then we get to 2, which is 7:10. So with that knowledge, I want you all to go ahead and complete the first part of the telling time activity, which asks you to fill in the bubbles next to the correct time. For the second part of that lesson, you are asked to draw the hands on the clock to represent the time that is shown. So remember that when our hour hand is in between two numbers, let's say our hour hand was in between the 7 and the 8. It's not 8 o'clock yet. We're still in the 7 o'clock hour. That hand getting closer to the 8 just lets me know that it's closer to 8 o'clock. So don't let that trip you up as you're working on this. That's all for day 2. We love you and we miss you, and we hope to see you again soon.
Hi, I'm Alicia Johnson. Unfortunately, many families don't have access to the educational resources available online, and the digital divide has become more apparent as thousands of students are now learning from home. Thanks to our partnership with Circle City Broadcasting, IPS students and families have access to daily educational instruction. Join IPS teachers weekdays from 8 to 10 a.m. on MyINDY-TV. For the schedule, visit wishtv.com/IPS.
I think I need to call in sick.
Why? What's wrong?
My throat is sore, dizzy, runny nose.
It sounds like nasopharyngitis.
More than a dozen surprisingly specialized education models to choose from. Explore them all online. Yeah, that's IPS.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
Good morning, third graders. So happy to see you. I'm Miss Cook, and today we are going to be reviewing fractions. That way we can get all prepared and ready for our week 4, day 1 of math lessons. So I wanted to go back and review fractions and just take some time and spend time on fractions, because sometimes it's still a little confusing. When I think about fractions, I always think about food. Of course, my name is Miss Cook, so I'm always thinking about food. So I took a paper plate here and I colored it into like a pizza. So imagine you get a pizza, it's not cut yet. It's still one whole pizza. So this is one whole pizza. Now, if I cut the pizza, if I cut it in half, I get 2 pieces of that pizza. So I have 1/2 and 1/2. The size of the pizza didn't change. I didn't get extra. I just have I just cut it into equal shares. If I cut it again, I get 4 pieces. So I get 1 out of 4, or 1/4. Again, my size didn't change. The pizza did not change. It just is cut into smaller pieces. If I cut it 2 more times, I get 1/8. So 1 out of 8 slices. Again, it didn't change. It's just cut into smaller pieces. So it's equal shares. So what we're going to talk about first is how we can compare fractions. So I did a number line, and you can do this at home. All I did was take a thing of tape, and you can do it on, if you do something inside the house, you want to use like a painter's tape, because painter's tape doesn't leave back a film. If you do it outside, just tape it on the sidewalk, and you can do something like this. So I made a number line, and I used cards, just something fun, something different. So I used the joker as my 0, the ace as my 1, and 2 to show my number line. So on my number line, I want to compare, let's say I want to compare 1/4. So is 1/4, where would 1/4 end up on this number line? Would it be after the 1 or before the 1? So if I look at my fractions, here's my 1 whole, and here would be 1/4. So which is greater, the 1 whole or the 1/4? The 1 whole. So I would want to do on my number line before the 1. So 1/4 would end up somewhere about here. 1/4. Now, would 1/2 be greater than 1/4 or less than? Well, which one's the bigger share? Do you want half of a pizza or do you want 1/4 of a pizza? I think I would take a half. So 1/2 would be somewhere around here. I'm still not to 1 whole yet, but I'm getting closer. What about 3/4? If I had 3 slices of pizza, would that be greater than 1/2 of a pizza? Or I'm sorry, 3 out of 4. Would that be greater? Yeah, but I'm not quite to the whole yet. So on my number line, 3/4 would end up here. So that's how we can use a number line to help us see where fractions end up. I highly suggest making some type of visual, whether you are making a fraction rectangle from sheets of paper, looks like this is 1 whole, 1/4, we have 1/8, and all I did was just cut them and fold them. Give yourself some kind of visual to help you with fractions. Or you can use paper plates like I did to help you see. So that's how we compare fractions on a number line. So you can use other things in your household to help you show equal shares and break up, divide things into equal shares. Again, I highly suggest using something that you have a lot of that you can count. So I went through my house and I found one of these things. So this is really cool. This is how I wake my daughter up in the morning. I shoot her with these little cannonballs, but they're also very good tools to use to make arrays. And arrays are a great way to be able to divide into equal groups as well. So I have an array here, and I have 2 rows of 6. And the way that I know I have 2 rows of 6 is because it helps me remember what row is going across. Like we read going from left to right in a row. So that's how I remember that this is 2 rows of 6. So what fraction would be, if I broke these up into yellow and green groups, what fraction of these are yellow? Well, I have 3 groups, and out of those 3 groups, I have 2 of them that are yellow. So 2 out of 3, or 2/3, is the fraction that you need for this. So on your packet, you are going to be shading in circles, and you're going to shade in, like on the first one it's done for you, it gives you 4 rows of 5. And out of those rows, only 1 of those 4 rows are filled in. So it wants you to give the fraction. So it would be 1/4 of those rows. On the last part of your packet is a number bond puzzle. So you had something very similar to this last week. Remember, the dotted lines you're adding, the solid lines you are subtracting. So, or I'm sorry, not subtracting, you're multiplying. So remember your number bonds, and I will see you soon, guys.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
Good morning, 3rd graders. Ms. Cook is here from Christian Park 82. I am here to help you with week 4, day 2 of your math lessons. So we have a problem on our packet that looks like this, where you have to make a 3-digit math equation, or a math sentence, or a number sentence. So you're doing 3 digits plus 3 digits equals a 3rd digit. So you have to come up with some kind of strategy using the numbers 0 through 9. Now, you can only use those numbers 1 time. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to do this just a little bit different. Take a deck of cards. Now, I pulled out all the face cards, and I also pulled out the number 10. I did leave the ace because I use it as a 1. So take 3 cards from your deck, and this is the number that you have to make. So I have 4, 3, 5. So 435. Now you need a strategy to be able to come up with the 2 add-ins to equal that number. So I always start in the ones place value. So how can I make 5? Well, I can say 5 plus 1, or 5 plus 0, or I can say 4 plus 1, 3 plus 2, or is that it? Yep. So those are 3 different ways that I can make the 5. Now I need to look at my tens place value. How can I make 3 tens? Usually using only 0 through 9. 2 plus 1, 3 plus 0, and that's it. Same thing with the 4 in the hundredths digit. You are going to want to come up with all the different ways that you can make the hundreds. This is just one strategy that you can use to make it. You can also choose 3 more cards and come up with a sum. So the idea behind these are for you to be able to practice your addition. So you could say 435 plus 266 equals what number? Now, this doesn't fit the rule because I'm using the 6 2 times. So you can redraw. Oh, and I get an 8. So this 3-digit number plus this 3-digit number equals what? And I encourage you to play this with somebody else in the home. If you have a sibling, ask them to play with you. Grab 3 cards and then grab another 3 cards, add them up, and see who gets the higher amount. Whoever gets the higher amount keeps the cards. And just keep going and going. We call it addition atop it. So our next item on our packet is a pyramid. So in this pyramid puzzle, you are going to fill in the missing numbers. So it starts with 34 at the top. And then it gives you 2 more spaces at the bottom. So this to me looks like a number bond. If I look at a number bond, the hole is at the top, 34, and the 2 pieces are at the bottom. So what 2 numbers will equal 34? If you add them together, what 2 numbers will equal 34? Now you can use repeats and you can do this over again, but I challenge you to make your own pyramid and have someone solve it and see if they're right. Okay, so the next thing is multiplication. And I'm going to ask Mr. Schnepp up here to play multiplication top it with me because I feel like you can do this piece of the packet yourself, but I want to give you some tools to practice with. And just like we did earlier with the addition top it, the way we're going to do this is I'm going to draw 2 cards and I'm going to multiply them. And then I'm actually going to give you the division problem as well because multiplication is the opposite of division. So whoever gets a higher amount wins.
Okay.
So I have 4 and 3. So 4 times 3 would be 12. 12 divided by 4 would be 3.
So I draw 2 cards?
And you draw 2 cards too.
I have 5 and 2. So 5 divided by, or 5 times 2 is 10. And we're trying to...
I win. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
Who has a higher product?
And then 10 divided by 2 is 5.
So I win. Thanks. Thanks for playing, Mr. Snap.
So
whoever has the most cards wins. And we would keep going and going with that until we're out of cards. I encourage you to continue to practice your math facts that way. And remember, go ahead and throw out that division problem because if you can multiply, you can divide. It's just the opposite. So have a wonderful day, and we miss you very much. We can't wait to see you soon. And thanks.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
Good morning, 3rd graders. Okay, so we are going to get started and we're going to talk about some angles. So I wanted to show you some things that I have. I went around my house and I'm looking for tools and I found this. Have you ever seen this before? These are very popular with carpenters. So if there's anybody that in your household or family or like they do construction work, I bet you they have one of these. So this helps me get a perfect right angle. So a perfect right angle is 90 degrees and it makes a perfect L. So if you were to hold your arm up and hold one out, that's L shape. That's 90 degrees. If you go just a little bit smaller, it's an acute angle. It's so cute. Oh, it's so cute. It's less than 90 degrees. And the way I remember that, because it's so cute, it's little. You think about a little puppy, it's oh. And then if we go further out, where we're more than 90 degrees, because our angles are measured in degrees, it's obtuse. It's big. It's wide. It's obtuse. It's an obtuse angle, so it's more than 90 degrees. So on your packet, you're going to be asked to look at triangles that look like this, or some of them may even look like this. So you're going to be asked to look at triangles, and you're going to be asked to figure out what's the same about the triangles, what's different about the triangles. Now that you have this information, it will help you. And you can be more descriptive on your explanation. So, on your packet, you also have a couple puzzles. One is with a picture. Like it has like 3 pairs of jeans on there, and you have to decide what each pair of jeans are worth. Pay attention to the signs, because I know when I tried it myself, I got tricked. At the bottom of it, they threw in a multiplication one. I'm like, ah. So make sure you're paying attention to the signs. Make sure you're thinking about this from a problem-solving mindset. The next thing you have to do, you are going to find the area. So you're going to have squares on your packet that look kind of like this. So on this, it looks like an array. This is a little bit bigger, but it's broke down into squares. So if I was to count all these squares, it would take me a really long time. And I can do it, but I don't think you're going to sit here that long for me to count each and every one of these little squares. So I can do it a faster way. I can multiply. I can count how many rows there are. And remember, rows, we go straight across, just like how we read. We don't read up and down. We read across. So rows go across. And I can count each row. Then I can count how many are in each row. Now this is a little bit bigger than what we normally do. So if you're looking at the example, it gives us 3 rows of 4. So you want to know how many squares are in each. How can I do that problem by not having to count the squares? So if I have a 3 by 4 array, that means I have 3 rows of 4, 2, 3, and 4. How can I do this without counting each square? Did you say I could multiply? I can, look. So 3 times 4 equals, I'm not going to tell you that. What's another strategy I can use? Did you say I can use repeat addition? Because you are right. I can do 3 plus 3 plus 3. How many times do I have to add 3? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times. What's my answer? I'm not going to tell you. Okay, so is there another math equation that I can do to help me solve this problem? I can do 3 groups of 4. So those are all different strategies that you can do to help you solve area. And remember, if you're wanting the area problems, you're wanting the square units that are inside that box. If you were going to lay carpet with your carpet square, you will need to know how much carpet you need for the entire inside the area. So you want to know each square. And that's all for today. So you have a wonderful day. We will see you soon. Thank you.
This is MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23. Here's what's coming up next.
Good morning, third graders. We are on our last day of our math packet. Congratulations, you made it, you did it. I'm so excited for you, and I can't wait to see you in the fall. So, we have some math problems that we're gonna work on. I'm only just gonna show you a couple strategies just to review, and it's addition, subtraction with regrouping strategies. So, I have a problem written up here on the board, 229 plus 71. Okay, so Ms. Cook always starts in the ones. You can do it a different way. You can start in the hundreds, you can start in the tens. I know there's different strategies out there for you, but for me, it's always easier if I just start in the ones. Now, I have my problem written in the standard algorithm. So for me, I like to make it easier, and I like to draw my place value. This way I can see it and it's aligned. My ones are in the ones place, my tens are in the tens place, and my hundreds are in the hundreds place. They're not moving anywhere. And this way I stay focused and I know exactly where I'm going. So I said to start where? In the ones place. Where did I say to start? In the ones place. One more time. Thank you. In the ones place. 3 times you should have it. Okay, so I have 9 plus 1. 9 plus 1 equals 10. So I can just throw 10 in here, right? Oh, please tell me you're yelling at me saying, no, Ms. Cook, don't do it. No, 10 is too big. It doesn't fit. I have to kick it out of my space. So, do I leave the 1 here or do I leave the 0? I leave the 0 because I have 0 ones. My 10 goes up here into my tens place because that's where it belongs. So, now I can start in my tens place. I have 7 plus 2 plus 1. Well, 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 7 is a 10 fact, so that was super easy. And I just throw my 10 in there, right? No, I'm not done yet. That 10 has to go in the hundreds place. It's too big for this space. So I have to kick them out and say, bye. You belong over here. So now I have 200 plus 100 equals 300. Okay, so that's one strategy you can do to solve that problem. I'm going to give you one more, and I'm also going to do it with an HTO chart, or a hundreds, tens, ones chart, place value. So, the way I would do it with a place value chart, I call them HTO, because it's easier for me to remember. And we have hundreds, tens, ones. So I'm going to put my numbers into my chart. So I have 229. So what goes in the ones? 2? 25. No, it's the 9. So I have 9 ones here. And I'm just going to use my base 10 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How many tens do I have? 2 tens. 1, 2. How many hundreds do I have? I have 2 hundreds. 1, 2. Okay, so I'm going to switch it out, use a different color so you can see where I'm going to add. Next, I'm going to add my ones. So I have 1. And how many 10s do I have? 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now I can just add them up. Make sure if you have a 10, you move it over. Like here's 9 plus 1, that equals 10. It doesn't fit, so I have to move it over. So I'm going to add a 10 here, leave my 0 in the ones, and now I'm going to add up my 10s. So I have 8, 9, 10. Doesn't fit, move it over, and I have 3 hundredths. So that's one way that you can solve your addition with regrouping. This way you have a visual, so you can see it, you can draw it out. It's however you want to do it. Or you could do the expanded form strategy where you're saying 9 plus 1, or 2 10s plus 7 10s, 10 plus 7, D, and then you would have 2 hundredths. That's another strategy that you can use where you're putting the problem into expanded form and you're just adding it all up. Okay, so our next piece is subtraction with regrouping. And my favorite poem to use for subtraction with regrouping, if there's more on the floor, go next door, grab 10, add it to the ones. Okay, so I have my problem written on the board, and this is a subtraction problem. I wrote it in the standard algorithm form. I'm going to go ahead and put my place value line so I can keep everything aligned. So now on my subtraction, remember our poem is if more on the floor, this is our floor, go next door, grab 10, and then add that 10. So do I have more on the floor? I do. If you have $3, you cannot lend me 7. You have to go next door to your neighbor. So 3 minus 7 won't work. So I have to grab 10. Wait a second. There's no 10s there. What's my next step? Well, I have to go to my next door neighbor and grab 100. So I'm going to borrow 100 from my ones. This turns into 100. I'm going to drop off 10 here. But remember, I still have to borrow. So this turns into 9 10s. Add my 10, and I get 13 10s. Whew, seems like a lot of work, but it's okay. We like math work. It's our favorite. So 13 minus 7. Can I do that now? I can. So if you have $13, now you can lend me 7. So 13 minus 7, well, 7 plus 7 equals 14. So 6 plus 7 would equal 13. So 13 minus 6 would equal 7. Huh. Good thing I know my double facts. That would have taken me a long time. So 13 minus 7 equals 6. 9 10s minus 8 10s equal 1. And then we are left with 100. So just a review on subtraction with regrouping. Remember, more on the floor, go next door, grab 10, and add that to your ones place. And if you have to go to your next neighbor, that's okay too. All right, third graders, I hope you have a wonderful summer, and I can't wait to see you in the fall. Have a great day.
You've been watching MyIPS on MyINDY-TV 23, a free educational service provided by Circle City Broadcasting of Indianapolis. MyIPS airs weekday mornings from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. For more information, special announcements, and the weekly program schedule, go to wishtv.com. You can also follow us on Facebook.